everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Accommodation Show. This week we're going to be talking about all things photography with our beautiful, wonderful guest, Mauro Risch. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bat. Pleasure to be here.
I've been so excited to have you on because I love photography. I love a good picture. I appreciate so much of how important it is to have fantastic photography in our accommodation businesses. And there's nothing that brings me more pleasure than to have someone on that's, I would say, renowned, a world leader, that really, really knows this particular industry in this particular space. So I've been looking forward to this for months now. But Mauro, I would love you to give everybody a bit of an introduction as to who you are and what you do within the accommodation space.
That's great. I've been a photographer my whole life. I've been a commercial photographer for many, many years. For the last more than close to 15 years now, I've been specializing in hotels and resorts and motels as well. So it's been really a nice journey. Sometimes you think you own your career path, but not always. So the market will dictate what career path you will follow. And it's been amazing. I've had the chance to meet some of the most amazing people, the hoteliers around Australia and the Asia Pacific as well, because I do work with a few hotels in the Asia Pacific region. And to know Australia, traveling to almost every place. Of course, there are still places that I haven't been yet, but it's been fantastic. Working with this industry is amazing. It's a dream come true. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what excited me the most was actually looking at your photos. And that's one of the best things for me is looking at my guests' Instagrams and at the work that they actually do. And now I know that you've already got a very, very good reputation in the industry. You're on the conference circuit and you're doing work for all sorts of big companies. But where I really love this sort of thing is a photo tells no lies. Like I can look at a photo and I can go, oh, I love it, or you don't like it. You can be both ways about it, but you have to have a bit of an eye for detail, and it really exposes the person before you've even met them. So I've been following your work. I've been looking at what you do, and I guess what I'm getting at, if anyone's tuned into this particular episode and you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast, then make sure you check out the website. What's the website address again?
Hotelphotographer.com.au.
So nice and simple. So hotelphotographer.com.au, or check out the Instagram, which is the Hotel Photographer. And the reason why I'm encouraging you to start off in this particular way and to have a look at this profile and these pictures is so that you can start to get the idea of that elevation of just having regular photos and then having phenomenal photos and what the difference is going to make. And this episode is all geared around how a great photo can generate 1,000 bookings. Now, that isn't my title. That's Mauro's title. But can you tell me a bit more about that theme and that idea?
Well, look, it's been a learning curve. Probably 20 years ago, I knew nothing about the hospitality industry. I had a request to do work for a hotel in Brazil. It was a 5-star hotel in Rio. And that was my first ever experience with a hotel photo shoot. It was amazing, but there's a lot of things that you start learning once you start listening to hoteliers from all different areas. You start learning what are their pain points, where do they struggle when it comes to selling their rooms and to putting their names out there. So there are some amazing things that I've been learning. Of course, now I know all the acronyms, the ADRs and the KPIs and everything that is really peculiar to the hospitality industry. But I do understand, I get a lot of feedback from my clients, especially in regards to what they are struggling with. I remember coming to Australia for the first time 12 years ago before we decided to move here. And we photographed a very nice hotel in Brisbane, a 5-star hotel by the river. And the general manager asked me to photograph only rooms with Story Bridge view. That's all we shot. We spent 2 days photographing rooms, probably 6 room types, and all of them have the most beautiful view of Story Bridge, sunset and dusk shots. A few days later, a few weeks later, he calls me and said, Mauro, we have a problem because now everyone who's booking our rooms, yes, we showed our best rooms, our best stock, the inventory is all of the amazing room views, but some people are getting that they're not booking exactly what they're checking in. So the rooms not always reflect what they have. So this is one thing that changed. Now, especially with Aussie guests, we have to keep it real. Honest, yes. Let's find a beautiful way to tell your story, to show your room and to say what your product is like. But at the end of the day, we have to keep it honest and keep it real. Otherwise, it becomes a painful experience, especially for the front desk with the guests coming downstairs and listening to all the little things that the guests are complaining now.
Yeah, and so that's a really interesting one, and that's something that we've spoken about in the past. Is who does Mauro work for? Do you just work for all the big hotels, or do you work for Mary and John that run a smaller accommodation portfolio? They might have one or two, or some short-term rentals and that sort of thing, and it doesn't really matter, right? Like that experience and that journey that you're trying to reflect. It doesn't. No matter what size of business, you still need to have great photos, even if you don't. Even if you have budget stock, right?
I don't think it's really a matter of how many stars or the size of the property. I think every hotelier has a story to tell, has a size or a room number in their property. It's regional or it's big city or it's in the South Pacific Islands. Doesn't really matter. Every property has a story to tell. And this is the one thing I've learned. And probably it's an interesting story because I used to feel that small operators felt not very proud about their properties. And I felt that really soon. And they would feel intimidated if I told them that I am a preferred photographer for 4 of the top 10 hotel chains in the world. They would say, no, you're too expensive or you're too good for me. And I see now that this is very important because as a photographer, I'm not there to judge their product. I'm there to make them see and for their guests find out how beautiful their story is or how beautiful the rooms are, to see things that they probably are not used to seeing anymore. As an operator, I'm sure if you own a hotel or a motel or resort, everything you see is cracks on the wall, a little bit of dust on top of the cabinet. And as a photographer, I'm there to help you find beauty where you can no longer find it. So it's an interesting thing. This year has been interesting because regional Australia is just exploding. So New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, I've been working non-stop with regional properties and they're so amazing, amazing. You can photograph using drones, everything, dusk, during the day. The rooms are clean, are beautiful, spacious, generous in size. The food is fantastic. Sometimes I go to far north Queensland and the little motel has a French chef to cook. And it's amazing. There's the stereotypical approach is no longer there. Any property can be amazing and needs to have their story told. This is what I've learned for the last few years.
Yes, so I guess what you're saying is it's all about telling the story, and that story that's congruent with what you've actually got to show, and you can find beauty within that particular story. The other thing that I find interesting with photography is that it's kind of like looking after your reviews, looking after your website as a whole, and looking after your business. Now, if you're a business owner that doesn't really spend much time in business, doesn't really care about the business, then this conversation isn't going to apply to you regardless. But I find that getting the right shots and telling the right story shows that you care. And I think that that's what's more important than the shot representing something that it's not. It's actually showing, look, I care enough. I'm a small business owner, but I care enough to really tell my story in the appropriate way for you to understand it. And then from your perspective, Mara, it's about you saying, well, I can help you tell that story.
100%. And I love that challenge sometimes, because the feedback we get from the owner or from the operator or just from the director of sales and marketing is that they have 100 challenges how to portray their rooms or their property well. And having someone who's specializing in understanding what the hospitality is, I think can help them a lot. I can see through the fog and through the smoke sometimes when we're talking about that. Sometimes marketing managers or director of sales and marketing come to me and they'll say, well, I think we have some not very sexy rooms to shoot, and the conference rooms are not very sexy, but at the same time, I'm not there to judge that. You hire me to make it look as amazing as possible with a limit and being honest. We're never going to lie, or the thing that we used to use Photoshop for everything 20 years ago is no longer acceptable. People want to see real, otherwise it creates you problems. So there is always a way to tell your story in a beautiful way and simple and where people can connect. There's a unique side to every property. This is the one thing that having the right person there to tell your story will help you with.
And so one of the things that we talk about a lot, often within iBooked Online when we're looking at direct bookings, when we're doing training, when we're doing courses, when we're doing these episodes, we're very often focused on the guest avatar, the demographic, who we're talking to, what kind of traveler is coming. When you're going and doing photos and when you're doing this kind of a shoot, I assume that that's something that's front of mind for you. But in a practical sense, what are you thinking about in terms of avatar and demographic, and how much research do you do? Or is it now, hey, you know what, I've been doing this for so long that it just comes instinctively to me? What is your process?
I do a lot of research. Most of the time I do a lot of research. Although with the groups that you've been working for 10 years, you already understand their guidelines. Although, there's always a moment where you want to break the rules and go over the guidelines, but most of the time you know and you understand what works for that brand. But with the new ones, it's important to just get it going, understand what their demographic is, because it will change the way I tell my images. So some brands will like things more moody and darker and a bit more intimate. Some brands want to show more space and natural daylight. So every brand and every property will require different approaches. It's very interesting, but one thing that I've noticed that is quite good to hear from the clients, from the people who are hiring me, being them the hotel owner, motel owner, or the director of sales and marketing, is what does not work for them. This is the one thing that for me is gold. Have you done something in the past that did not work for you? Something that you didn't get a good feedback in the past? And that gives me some direction where not to go to, or what is the other way that we can tell your story that we can avoid that bringing you problems or putting you in trouble situations. So that's one thing I've been trying to get to my clients, especially the new ones. And this year has been a cascade of new people that I've never met before. They're all interested. All of a sudden, they all want images and they have the urgency to do so. It's been fantastic to be able to tell them, look, don't worry, I'm not there to judge your property. I'm there to help you find the best way to portray it and tell your story.
So let's talk about the evolution of photography and online presence and that sort of thing, and it kind of leads back into that title of the pictures, generating 1,000 bookings. What do you feel is happening in the photography landscape? Why are photos so important? Now, it's going to seem obvious to those that are in marketing and sales, but in terms of the evolution of the technology, and now you're seeing there's people wanting more and more photos, what's the convergence? What is the story?
Well, the changes are nonstop. Everything is changing. My world, everything is changing so quickly. From the beginning, 20 plus years ago, we used to shoot film and negative, and everything now is digital. So is the world. So is the media. So is how people have their booking experiences. I hear, I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but a lot of people booking their trips and hotel rooms on mobile, they spend 1.7 seconds in each image. And people booking on desktops, they spend 2.5 seconds in each image. So if you don't have that right image, the perfect one for when they're looking and browsing through your images, yeah, you lost gold there. So you lost a chance to dig and find diamonds. And yeah, I don't know when that chance is going to come back, but it's very important not to underestimate the power of those images. Everything is digital. Everything is quick. It's incredible. I don't know where we're going to get in the next few years, but I know now we're going through a lot of changes, and they could help everyone who is on top of their game.
Sure, and let's jump into that quickly. So we've got new methodology. So you've got the image, we've got moving image that can also be incorporated, which I don't want to talk about too much today, because I think that's a whole nother episode. But drone shots and that sort of thing, that's one of those questions that I get asked quite a lot, and it's quite on trend, is to get the drone out and to do some things. What's your take on drones?
Look, I love drones because before we had drones, I used to have to hire a helicopter for $3,000 an hour just to go up, do a few shots, and go down. Not every client would be happy with spending $3,000 an hour for a helicopter flight and getting 2 or 3 shots. So the drone gives me the option to do that in a more autonomous way. But also, the aerial shot is so amazing because, especially for destination properties, regional Australia, it gives you a sense of place. It gives you a good idea of what the destination is. It's not just because it's drone, it's funky, and everyone wants it. It's really an amazing tool. I understand why people are getting crazy about it, and I love it. I really love being able to send my camera up there as an extension of me and check all angles, sunrise, sunset, looking from above, having models there on the pool looking up. It's such a great way to tell your story out of the norm. You know, it's not that common thing anymore. It's really, really good.
And on that, you're leading me so well down to so many questions that I have. One of the most common questions that I get is, should I have people in the photos, or shouldn't I have people in the photos? What's your take on this?
I will always say use as many tools as you can. If getting your demographic engaged to your brand and to your product is a must, yes, use all the tools. Models I'm a big fan of doing lifestyle shots. I just came from Sydney. I was shooting lifestyle shots this Tuesday, and it was amazing because you get the chance to give the guests or the travel shoppers who are looking for a room to see themselves in that room, or how they see or they perceive that brand. It is very important, but you have to be aware of one thing. Images with people date quicker than images without people. So it might be an expensive exercise sometimes. It's very important that you are aware of that. You can't have the models to the image rights forever. You always have a license for 1, 2, or 5 years. But in 5 years, whatever they are wearing will probably be a bit dated fashion-wise. So they have a short shelf life, so to speak, while the interior shots are not on the same level.
Yeah, and that's right. But so also you will have different styles and different trends on the interior, but generally, you're remodeling or revamping the whole room regardless, and that's when you're going to need new shots. I'm going to tell a little story, and we actually got to meet Mauro, and you did some headshots and some shots for myself, and not only was it a great experience, but one of the things that I found interesting, and something that I tell all my clients all the time, and this is what you said to me, within the first maybe 10 minutes, when we meet again in 6 months' time, we'll take some more shots. And I'm like, hold on a second. We've just met. We haven't even started shooting, and you're already planting some seeds saying, hey, mate, this is in 6 months' time, we're doing this again. And that's what I try to tell my clients all the time, is that you're going to need to redo this. Now, I don't want to take the words out of your mouth. Can you give me a little bit of an insight as to why you said we'll do it in 6 months, and also how that would apply to accommodation?
Well, it has been my approach actually. With my background in advertising, yes, you had to be. We used to have cycles in advertising world. With hotels, I remember when I first shot a hotel, hard full refurbishment would happen every 10 years, and a soft refurbishment would happen from 2 to 5 years. Now, I think these cycles are getting shorter. When it comes to representing your product and your brand, same thing. Cycles are getting shorter. And I do work with a few hotel brands in Australia specifically that are so aware of that, that they keep refreshing their image gallery every month. So I think they know what they're doing, because every time you upload new images to your web gallery or to the OTAs, your ranking is affected. And I think your ranking is most of the time affected on the upside. So they know what they're doing, how they're spending their money. It's an expensive exercise if it's a small operator, but still you have to be aware to be there fresh as often as you can. And things do change. People want to see more. We are very hungry for imagery. It's a visual world. Visuals rule. I always say that. And everything visual. Could be photos, videos, virtual tours, drone images, everything. Just go there and show and tell your story as much as you can. People want to see that. They are hungry to consume that visual content all the time.
Yeah, it's. I just find it so fascinating that you can go and you can almost do exactly the same photo shoot 6 months later, but yet it comes out completely different, right?
True.
Yeah. I don't know if you've got anything more to add to that.
Yes, I do. Even changing the mood a little bit when you add models or when you don't have the models. People ask me, well, I have a specific budget, a limited budget. What should I do with this budget? Should I do models? Should I do drones? Should I do, underwater photography? If it's a overwater bungalow in Vanuatu, I would always say start with your basics, because first of all, as a traveler myself, I would want to see your rooms first, even if you don't think that that's the sexiest thing for you to show to your potential guests. I would say cover the rooms first, all room types. OTAs are requesting 4 to 6 images per room type. That's a recent thing. When I came to Australia 12 years ago, a photography package was consisted of 8 images. You spent the whole day and you got 8 images. How do you cover enough with 8 images? Now, one room is 6 images. So that tells a lot. And keep creating fresh imagery, being aware of that. Even if it's in a more unpolished way or unfinished way, especially when you're talking about the social media aspects with Instagram and Reels and TikTok. It's not about the polished image, but about being present there and getting engagement all the time, which is a whole new beast. You know a lot more than I do when it comes to that area, because it's a non-stop changing industry and unbelievable.
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing, is that the imagery, the photos, the ideas, they just need to keep on coming, and you need to be super engaged to keep your audience following what you're actually doing. And that's why I encourage the use of not only someone like yourself to really capture the spirit and the story of what you're doing, but if you want to keep that story going, then you do need content, right? And you're constantly creating content throughout what it is that you actually do. And the nice thing is, as you all well know, Mauro, is that iPhones are unbelievable at taking photos nowadays in comparison to what they were in the past. The latest phones, they sometimes it can be almost imperceptible, the quality of the image if it's taken correctly. So you've got kind of that funnel as well that you can go down. I'm very aware that I have a million questions, and I'm very aware that we have limited time, and I do try to keep the episode short to get everybody thinking about the value of what we're talking about. I want to go back to our main topic, which is the photo will get you $1,000 bookings, right? And I think that one of the things that we talked about before we got started was, some of the mistakes that people are making and things that you see and you're like, oh, for God's sake, can you please stop doing that? If you were to condense down this topic, the overall topic, into maybe three main points or three main ideas, or just a sort of like a summary of, what action our hosts need to take from where they are right now, what would you say?
Well, that's an amazing question. Thank you for that. But one thing I think that is quite effective, and this comes from my experience with hoteliers in this part of the world, is that sometimes the owners of the small operators, they get confused between their own personal taste and what they should be showing to their demographics, to their own audience. And this is a very hard topic. I can't come to the owner and say, look, you're doing it wrong. You should be, changing your beds. Instead of having a maroon Duna cover on your bed, maybe it's time for you to go full white with all white pillows and white linen. And that's going to give you what most surveys tell me that is the number one topic for guests looking for a hotel room, which is cleanliness. That helps you tell the story of cleanliness. It's very subjective, but at the same time, it's there. Psychologically, it works. So it makes the room brighter, more spacious, and more welcoming. And this is one of the things that I do see happening. I have seen also things like very successful owners who, doing a discussion of what direction should he be going in regards to images, and I would say, well, maybe it's time for you to think of new images. And they would come back to me and say, well, I've had these images for 12 years. Why do I need new ones? I have many answers to that, but I don't want to be offensive at the same time. And at the same time, if you were in a market like Sydney, for example, where 90% occupancy is just the average, why would you actually change your photos if you have been successful for so long? So there's a bit of a conundrum. I do believe that having new images, yes, will represent your brand and your product in a better way. But at the same time, I cannot force anyone. I can only recommend, and if they want to work with me, yes, I'm sure I can add so much value to what they already have. Maybe instead of 90%, he could be enjoying 97%. He could be enjoying 99%. That's what I always wish my clients. Look, I wish you the best. From now on, let's hope that you have 105% occupancy from now on. That's the only thing I can wish.
It's an amazing one, because even if you feel like you're going well, but there are parts of your business that you haven't updated or haven't refreshed, it's so important to do it, because if things start to go the other way, then you've got no recourse, you've got nothing you can do. You don't really even understand whether that's a problem point of your business. But the other thing is that people would say, hey, yeah, I'm full all the time. It's like, well, why don't you just charge more, be a bit less full, a lot less work, and get all of these fundamentals in the right place. Mauro, I'm going to wrap us up for today. Thank you so much for spending your time. I know that it's incredibly valuable. I know that you're traveling all over the place producing fantastic photos. Now, folks, if you are tuned in and if you want to connect with Mauro, then jump onto his Instagram, which is the Hotel Photographer. Jump onto his website and you'll find him there as well. We'll put all the links in the show notes for you to be able to find him. And the one thing that I would say is it doesn't matter what business size you are, you can reach out and you can at least start that conversation and figure out what you need to be done. The beautiful thing, and this is something that I know, is that if you get it right and if you improve it well, you will drive more business. Right? There's no doubt, right? No doubt, money back guarantee. But it happens, right? Like that's the main thing. And so, Mauro, just to, I don't want to take words out of your mouth, but am I right in saying that pretty much anyone can approach you to have a conversation?
Anyone. There's no property too big or too small. It's always an amazing experience to be with these professionals in the hotel industry. Hoteliers are a kind of people that I love dealing with. I always say there should be a special place in heaven for hoteliers, absolutely, because they make me feel amazing. And the one thing that I love the most is the feedback when they come back to me and say, Mauro, it was an amazing experience. I didn't think it would be such an easy going kind of couple of days working and doing our photography. That makes me feel so good. But more than anything is knowing them and knowing that I can add value to whatever they're trying to achieve. It's just a fantastic feeling. Their feedback makes me want to do more. That's the one thing that I can never forget.
Absolutely love it. Thank you so much. And folks, if you are listening on the podcast, then make sure you give us a positive review. 5 stars is amazing. Leave us some comments and your feedback. You can also catch us on the Facebook group. That's where we chat with everybody. So make sure you jump onto there and have a bit of a chat. And then lastly, if you're watching on YouTube, then make sure you give us a subscribe, a like, put some comments in the box below so that we know how you're going with your photography, and if you have any questions whatsoever, we are more than happy to help. Mauro, you're amazing. Thank you so much once again. I appreciate you so much, and I look forward to seeing you, I don't know, at the next conference, the next event. I'm sure, what is it, 5 months, and we're doing the next set of photos?
You tell me. You're the boss.
Love it. Thank you so much. Take care.
My pleasure, man.